Captain Maya Reeves stood at attention in the briefing room at Naval Special Warfare Command in Coronado, California. The overhead lights hummed softly as Commander Jack Hawthorne paced in front of a projection screen showing satellite images of a dense jungle canopy. Maya was 32 years old, lean and strong from years of training. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, her uniform pressed and perfect. But none of that seemed to matter to the men in the room. She could feel their eyes on her, could hear the whispers that had followed her for months. "A woman in SEAL operations," one of them had said just last week. "Next thing you know, they'll let anyone in." Commander Hawthorne stopped packing and looked directly at Maya. His weathered face showed 30 years of military service, and his expression made it clear he wasn't happy about her presence on this mission. "Captain Reeves," he said, her name coming out like something bitter. "I understand you volunteered for Operation Silent Drop." "Yes, sir," Maya replied, her voice steady and clear. Hawthorne exchanged glances with Lieutenant Marcus Chen, his second in command. Chen was a muscular man in his late 30s who had served with Hawthorne for over a decade. He shook his head slightly, as if to say this was a waste of time. "Do you understand what this mission entails?" Hawthorne continued. "We need someone to infiltrate a hostile compound in the Colombian jungle. The insertion point is over a river gorge. The drop is 300 feet into water at night in full tactical gear." Maya nodded. "I've reviewed the mission parameters, sir." Hawthorne pulled up another image on the screen. It showed a narrow river cutting through a steep canyon surrounded by thick jungle. The gorge walls were sheer rock, and the water below looked black in the satellite photo. "The problem," Hawthorne said slowly, "is that our intelligence indicates the enemy has radar coverage over the entire valley. Any parachute deployment will be detected immediately. The operative would have to drop without a chute, hit the water, and survive the impact." Several men in the room shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a young lieutenant named Bradley, let out a low whistle. "No one survives that drop," Hawthorne stated flatly. "Not at that height, not with that gear, not in those conditions, which is why this mission has been on hold for 6 weeks. We've been trying to find another insertion method." Maya stepped forward. "Sir, I've done high-altitude water entries. I've trained for extreme impact scenarios, with the right technique and body positioning." "This isn't a training pool, Captain," Hawthorne interrupted. "This is a jungle river with unknown depth, possible rocks beneath the surface, and currents strong enough to slam you into the canyon walls. You'd be carrying 40 pounds of equipment. The water temperature is cold enough to cause shock. And even if you survived the drop, you'd have to swim to shore, climb a 100-foot gorge wall, and infiltrate an enemy compound, all without being detected." "I understand the risks, sir." Hawthorne turned to face her fully. His jaw was tight, and Maya could see the frustration in his eyes. This was about more than just the danger of the mission. "With all due respect, Captain, I don't think you do. You've been in the Navy for 8 years. You've done good work in intelligence and logistics, but this is direct action. This is SEAL territory. And frankly, I don't care what the brass says about integration and equal opportunity. When it comes to keeping my men alive and completing impossible missions, I trust experience. I trust muscle mass. I trust operators who have proven themselves in combat zones, not training facilities." The room went silent. Maya felt heat rise in her chest, but she kept her face neutral. She had heard versions of this speech before. At the Naval Academy, during her advanced training, in every briefing room where she was the only woman present. Lieutenant Chen spoke up. "Commander, if I may, the mission timeline is critical. The target will only be at that compound for another 72 hours. If we don't move now, we lose our chance to capture him. Maybe we should consider Captain Reeves's offer." Hawthorne shot Chen a sharp look. "You think she can make that drop, Marcus?" Chen hesitated. "I think we're running out of options." "That's not the same thing," Hawthorne replied. He turned back to Maya. "Captain Reeves, I've lost men on operations less dangerous than this. Good men, men who trained their whole lives for combat. I'm not willing to send someone to their death just to check a box for diversity initiatives." Maya's hands clenched into fists at her sides, but her voice remained calm. "This isn't about diversity, sir. This is about capability. I can make that drop." "Based on what?" Hawthorne challenged. "Your training scores, your simulation results. That's all theoretical, Captain. When you're falling through darkness toward water that might as well be concrete, theory doesn't mean much." "Based on physics and preparation," Maya answered. Based on the fact that I've studied every high-fall water survival case in military history. Based on the fact that I weigh less than most male operators, which means less force on impact. Based on the fact that I've trained my entire career for opportunities like this, even when people told me I'd never get them. Bradley, the young lieutenant, spoke up from the back of the room. Come on, Reeves, be realistic. Even if you somehow survived the fall, you really think you could handle the compound infiltration? These are experienced cartel soldiers we're talking about, not classroom exercises. Maya turned to face him. I've completed the same training as every operator in this room, Lieutenant. Probably more, since I've had to prove myself twice as hard at every step. Training isn't combat, Bradley shot back. When things go wrong, and they always go wrong, you need someone who can adapt, someone with actual field experience under fire. I have field experience, Maya said firmly. I served 2 tours in Afghanistan. I was part of the team that. In intelligence, Hawthorne interrupted. Behind a computer, that's not the same as kicking down doors. Maya took a deep breath. She had known this wouldn't be easy, but she also knew something these men didn't. She had information about this mission that changed everything. Commander Hawthorne, she said carefully, I need to speak with you privately. Hawthorne frowned. Captain, anything you have to say can be said in front of these men. They're all cleared for this operation. Sir, it's regarding personal knowledge of the target location. Something in Maya's tone made Hawthorne pause. He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded curtly. Everyone out, he ordered. 10-minute break, Chen, you stay. The room cleared quickly, though Maya caught several skeptical looks from the departing officers. When the door closed, Hawthorne crossed his arms and waited. This better be good, Captain. Maya reached into her jacket and pulled out a folded photograph. She handed it to Hawthorne. He unfolded it and stared at the image. It showed a younger Maya, maybe 23 or 24, standing next to a smiling Colombian man in civilian clothes. They were in front of a small church, and the man had his arm around her shoulders. His name was Carlos Mendoza, Maya said quietly. He was a translator for our unit in Bogotá 7 years ago. We became close. He showed me his hometown, introduced me to his family. One of the places he took me was a river gorge where he used to swim as a kid. Hawthorne looked up from the photograph. Are you telling me? The compound in your satellite photos is less than 2 miles from that gorge, sir. I've been there. I know the terrain. I know the river. Carlos told me stories about that drop. Local kids used to dare each other to jump from lower points on the cliff. He said the water was deep there, fed by mountain runoff. No rocks at the bottom, just a strong current. Lieutenant Chen leaned forward, interested now. Did you ever see anyone make the jump? No, Maya admitted. But Carlos did it once from about 100 feet up. He said it was the most terrifying thing he'd ever done, but he survived with just some bruising. 300 feet is higher, I know, but the water is deep enough. The river is wide enough. It's possible. Hawthorne handed the photo back slowly. What happened to Carlos? Maya's jaw tightened. The man we're targeting, Gabriel Reyes, happened to him. Reyes is a cartel enforcer. 3 years ago, his men killed Carlos because they suspected him of being an informant. They killed his whole family, burned their house down. Carlos's sister was 16 years old. The room fell silent. Hawthorne and Chen exchanged a long look. So this is personal for you, Hawthorne said finally. Yes, sir, it's personal, but that doesn't make me less capable. If anything, it makes me more motivated to complete this mission successfully. Hawthorne walked to the window and stared out at the training grounds where new recruits were running obstacle courses in the California sun. He was quiet for almost a minute. Personal motivation can be dangerous, he said without turning around. It can make you take risks you shouldn't take. It can cloud your judgment. Or it can give you the edge you need to survive, Maya countered. Hawthorne finally turned back to face her. His expression was still skeptical, but something had shifted slightly. Even if I believed you could make that drop, and I'm not saying I do, you'd still have to pass the operational readiness evaluation. Full tactical scenario, complete with hand-to-hand combat qualifications and weapons proficiency under stress. I'm ready for that, sir. Against Lieutenant Chen here, one of the best operators in my command. If you can hold your own against him for a full evaluation cycle, I'll consider, and I mean consider, adding you to the mission roster. Maya looked at Chen, who gave her a small, respectful nod. At least he seemed willing to give her a fair chance. "When do we start?" Maya asked. "Tomorrow, 0600. Bring everything you've got, Captain, because I promise you, Chen won't go easy on you just because you're a woman, and neither will the enemy if you somehow make it into that compound." "I wouldn't expect him to, sir." Hawthorne moved toward the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. "Captain Reeves, I need you to understand something. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm not trying to hold you back because of your gender. But I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've learned that the jungle doesn't care about your determination or your personal reasons. It only cares about whether you can survive. And I have serious doubts that anyone, man or woman, can survive that drop." "Then I'll just have to prove you wrong, sir." Hawthorne almost smiled. "Almost. We'll see, Captain, we'll see." Part 2. Maya woke at 4:30 the next morning. She hadn't slept well. Her small apartment near the base was silent except for the distant sound of waves breaking on the shore. She got up, made strong coffee, and began her pre-evaluation routine. Stretching, breathing exercises, mental preparation. She thought about Carlos as she prepared, his laugh, the way he'd taught her Spanish phrases while they walked through Colombian markets. The last message he'd sent her before he disappeared. "They know, I'm sorry, take care of yourself, Maya." By the time she'd confirmed he was dead, she was already back in the States, powerless to help, drowning in guilt and grief. She'd requested transfer after transfer, trying to get assigned to operations targeting the cartels. But as an intelligence officer, she'd been kept behind desks and computer screens. Until now. At 0545, Maya arrived at the training facility. It was a sprawling complex of buildings and outdoor courses designed to simulate every kind of combat scenario. Lieutenant Chen was already there, wearing workout clothes and checking equipment. Commander Hawthorne stood nearby with a clipboard, flanked by 2 other officers who would serve as evaluators. "Morning, Captain," Chen said as Maya approached. His tone was neutral, professional. "Ready for this?" "Ready," Maya confirmed. "Good. We'll start with weapons qualifications, move to tactical scenarios, and finish with hand-to-hand. The whole thing will take about 6 hours. You'll get water breaks, but not much rest between stations. We're simulating operational stress." Hawthorne stepped forward. "Captain Reeves, for the record, this evaluation is entirely voluntary. If at any point you want to withdraw, you can do so without prejudice to your regular duties. However, if you fail any component, you're automatically disqualified from Operation Silent Drop. Are we clear?" "Crystal clear, sir." "Then let's begin." The first station was the shooting range. Maya had always been good with weapons, but today she had to be perfect. She moved through the course firing at pop-up targets while wearing full tactical gear and a weighted vest that simulated carrying mission equipment. The targets appeared randomly, some friendly civilians, some hostile combatants. She had to make split-second decisions while managing her breathing and maintaining accuracy. When the buzzer sounded, she'd hit every hostile target and missed every civilian. No mistakes. "Good," one of the evaluators noted on his clipboard. "Time is competitive with our best operators." Next came navigation and infiltration scenarios. Maya had to move through a mock compound while avoiding motion sensors and cameras, then locate and photograph 3 specific targets without being detected. This tested her ability to move silently, think strategically, and adapt when guards appeared in unexpected locations. She completed it in 42 minutes. Chen's record was 38 minutes. "Not bad," Chen admitted as she emerged from the building, slightly winded. "You move well." "Thanks," Maya said, accepting a bottle of water from one of the evaluators. The morning wore on. Physical fitness tests, pull-ups, runs, obstacle courses with heavy gear. Maya pushed herself hard, drawing on reserves of strength she'd built up over years of training. Her muscles burned and her lungs ached, but she kept going. By noon, they'd reached the hand-to-hand combat portion. This was what everyone had really come to see. Several other officers had gathered to watch, including Lieutenant Bradley, who leaned against a wall with his arms crossed and a smirk on his face. The combat mat was set up in a large training room with padded floors. Chen removed his jacket and rolled his shoulders, warming up. He outweighed Maya by at least 70 pounds, most of it muscle. He'd been training in multiple martial arts since his teens. "Rules are simple," Hawthorne explained. 3 rounds, 3 minutes each, full contact but no strikes to the throat or groin. You can win by submission, knockout, or points. If you survive all 3 rounds without being knocked out or submitted, you pass. If you can actually beat Chen, you'll exceed the standard. Questions. Maya shook her head. She stepped onto the mat and took her position opposite Chen. Don't hold back, she told him. I need to know if I can handle this. Chen nodded with respect. I won't, good luck, Captain. The whistle blew. Chen came at her fast, testing her reflexes with a series of quick jabs. Maya slipped most of them, blocked the rest, and countered with a low kick to his lead leg. Chen barely seemed to notice. He pressed forward, using his size advantage to control the space. Maya knew she couldn't trade punches with him. She had to be smarter, faster, more technical. When Chen threw a heavy right cross, she ducked under it and shot in for a takedown, wrapping her arms around his waist. But Chen sprawled hard, using his weight to defend, then spun around her back and grabbed her in a rear choke hold. Maya felt the pressure on her neck immediately. Chen was strong, and he knew what he was doing. She had maybe 5 seconds before she'd pass out. Instead of pulling at his arms, which wouldn't work, she tucked her chin, trapped one of his arms with both of hers, and threw her legs up, rolling backward over her own head. The sudden shift in position broke Chen's grip. Maya scrambled away and got back to her feet, breathing hard. Nice escape, Chen said, genuinely impressed. They circled each other. The watchers were silent now, focused on the match. Even Bradley had stopped smirking. The round continued with both fighters exchanging techniques, strikes, kicks, clinches, and grappling attempts. Maya took some hard hits. Chen's punches were like getting hit with a hammer, but she gave back as good as she got, using precise strikes to vulnerable areas and staying mobile, never letting him trap her in one place. When the whistle blew to end round 1, both fighters were sweating and breathing hard. You're tougher than you look, Chen admitted during the 30-second break. Thanks, Maya panted. You're exactly as tough as you look. Round 2 was harder. Fatigue was setting in, and Chen seemed to have figured out her patterns. He cut off the mat, limited her movement options, and landed several solid body shots that made Maya's ribs ache. She tried for another takedown, but Chen sprawled again, this time securing a front headlock and landing knee strikes to her torso. Maya managed to break free, but she was hurt now. She could feel her body protesting, could taste blood from a split lip. But she couldn't quit, not in front of these men, not when Carlos's memory was watching her. She changed tactics, becoming more aggressive, accepting that she'd take damage to deliver her own. When Chen threw a high kick, Maya stepped into it, took it on her shoulder, and delivered a sharp elbow to his ribs. Chen grunted, the first sound of pain he'd made. They crashed together in a clinch, both fighters exhausted, both refusing to give ground. Maya threw knees while Chen tried to trip her. They separated, circled, came together again. The whistle blew. Round 2 complete. Maya had survived, but she'd taken significant damage. Her face was flushed, her breathing ragged. Chen looked tired but less damaged. Final round, Hawthorne called out. Captain, you've already proven yourself tougher than I expected. No shame in calling it here. Maya wiped blood from her lip and shook her head. I finish what I start, sir. Hawthorne nodded slowly, then continue. The whistle blew for round 3. Maya knew this was her last chance to prove she belonged. She came out more aggressive than before, throwing combinations, mixing high and low attacks, forcing Chen to respect her striking. Chen adapted, but Maya could see he was being more cautious now, more defensive. That was when Maya took her risk. She faked a jab, then dropped low and shot for a single-leg takedown with everything she had. Chen tried to sprawl, but Maya had timed it perfectly. She drove through, using her legs to generate power, and took Chen down to the mat. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. On the ground, Maya worked quickly to pass Chen's guard, but Chen was an excellent grappler. He tied her up, preventing her from advancing. They struggled on the mat, both fighters using technique and determination. Maya managed to get to side control, then tried to transition to a submission. Chen defended well, but Maya was relentless. She moved to mount position, establishing dominant position on top of Chen's torso. From there, she started working for an arm lock. Chen fought it, his face showing strain. The crowd was completely silent now, everyone leaning forward to see what would happen. Maya applied pressure, extending Chen's arm, bending it at the elbow in a way that would cause pain and potential injury if she pushed further. Tap, she urged quietly, only loud enough for Chen to hear. Don't make me hurt you. For a moment, Chen resisted, but Maya had the position locked in perfectly. There was no escape without injury. Chen slapped the mat 3 times, the universal signal of submission. The whistle blew immediately. Maya released the lock and rolled off Chen, both fighters lying on their backs and breathing heavily. For a moment, neither moved. Then Chen started laughing, a sound of genuine respect and disbelief. "Did you just submit me?" he asked, still catching his breath. "I think I did," Maya replied, also laughing despite the pain throughout her body. Chen sat up and extended his hand. Maya took it, and he pulled her to her feet. The room erupted in applause. Even the skeptical observers had to acknowledge what they'd just witnessed. "Hell of a fight, Captain," Chen said, respect clear in his voice. "You earned this." Commander Hawthorne stepped onto the mat. His face was unreadable as he looked at Maya, then at Chen, then back at Maya. The room went quiet again, everyone waiting for his assessment. "Captain Reeves," Hawthorne said slowly, "you've completed the operational readiness evaluation. Your weapons scores were excellent, your tactical skills were above average, your physical fitness meets our standards, and you just submitted one of my best operators in hand-to-hand combat." He paused, and Maya held her breath. "However," Hawthorne continued, "that doesn't change the fundamental problem. The drop itself is still a death sentence. The evaluation proves you can fight. It doesn't prove you can fall 300 feet into a river and survive." Maya stepped forward, ignoring the pain in her ribs and face. "Sir, I know the risks. I'm not asking you to believe I'll definitely survive. I'm asking you to give me the chance to try. This mission matters. Reyes has been moving weapons and drugs into the U.S. for years. He's killed dozens of people, including American citizens. If we don't take him now, we lose him again. And I'm the only operator who knows that terrain, who studied that drop, who's motivated enough to take this risk." Hawthorne studied her for a long moment. "You're willing to die for this?" "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to complete the mission," Maya answered. "Same as any SEAL would be." Lieutenant Bradley spoke up from the back of the room. "Commander, with respect, even if she's tough, we can't authorize a suicide mission. We'd be sending her to her death." "It's not suicide if I survive," Maya said, turning to face Bradley. "And I will survive because I have to." Chen stepped forward. "Commander, I've worked with a lot of operators over the years. Most of them are tough because they have to be. Captain Reeves is tough because she chooses to be. There's a difference. If anyone can make that drop, I think she can." Hawthorne looked between his lieutenant and Maya. The entire room watched, waiting. Finally, Hawthorne made his decision. "Captain Reeves, against my better judgment, and believe me, this goes against everything I've learned in 30 years of command, I'm adding you to Operation Silent Drop. Mission briefing is tomorrow at 0800. We deploy in 48 hours. Maya felt relief and determination flood through her. "Thank you, sir. You won't regret this." "I already regret it," Hawthorne said grimly. "But you've earned your shot. Don't make me regret it more by dying on that drop." "I won't, sir." As the room cleared and officers filed out, Chen approached Maya one more time. "Hey, Captain, for what it's worth, I hope you prove everyone wrong. That was one hell of a fight today. You've got my respect." "Thanks, Lieutenant. That means a lot." "Just do me a favor," Chen added, his expression serious. "Make that drop, complete the mission, and come back alive. I want a rematch someday." Maya smiled despite her exhausted, bruised face. "You're on." Later that night, alone in her apartment, Maya stood in front of her bathroom mirror and examined the damage. Her lip was swollen, her ribs bruised, and she had a black eye forming. She looked like she'd been through a war. But she'd won. She pulled out the photograph of Carlos and stared at it for a long time. His smiling face looked back at her from happier days. "I'm coming for him," Maya whispered to the photo. "I'm going to finish this for you, for your family, for everyone he's hurt." She set the photo down and began preparing for the mission. She had 48 hours to get ready for the most dangerous moment of her life, a 300-foot drop without a parachute into a jungle river at night. Commander Hawthorne was right about one thing: no one survives that drop. But Maya Reeves wasn't no one. Part 3. The next 2 days passed in a blur of mission preparation. Maya studied every detail of the compound layout, memorized guard patrol patterns, and reviewed intelligence reports on Gabriel Reyes and his organization. She trained with the specialized equipment she'd be carrying: a waterproof communication system, compact weapons, climbing gear, and a sealed pack with dry clothes and supplies for the jungle trek after the insertion. Commander Hawthorne remained skeptical but professional. He ran the briefings with military precision, outlining every phase of the operation. The mission window was tight. They had to extract Reyes within 72 hours before he moved to a different location. "The drop is just the beginning," Hawthorne reminded the team during the final briefing. "After Captain Reeves, assuming she survives, makes it to shore, she has to climb a 100-foot gorge wall in the dark, hike 2 miles through hostile jungle, infiltrate the compound, identify and tag Reyes for extraction, then exfiltrate to a secondary pickup point. Any questions?" Lieutenant Chen spoke up. "What's the backup plan if the drop goes wrong?" Hawthorne's expression darkened. "There is no backup plan for that phase. If Captain Reeves doesn't survive the insertion, the mission is scrubbed. We won't have time for a second attempt before Reyes disappears again." Everyone in the room understood what that meant. This was a one-shot operation, and everything depended on Maya surviving a fall that should kill her. The night before deployment, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept running through scenarios in her mind: the angle of entry into the water, the equipment distribution, the swim to shore. She'd reviewed every high-altitude water survival study she could find. The key was body position: feet first, body straight, arms tight to the sides, chin tucked. Hit the water like a pencil, not a board. Penetrate deep enough to slow down before trying to swim. At 300 feet, she'd be falling for approximately 4 seconds, reaching a terminal velocity of roughly 75 miles per hour. The impact force would be enormous. People had survived higher falls into water, but not often, and not with 40 pounds of gear. Her phone buzzed, a text from Lieutenant Chen: "Can't sleep either, want coffee." Maya met Chen at an all-night diner off base. They sat in a corner booth while a tired waitress brought them coffee and left them alone. "You know," Chen said, stirring sugar into his cup, "I've been on a lot of dangerous missions. Raids in Afghanistan, hostage rescues, direct action operations. But I've never been on one where we were pretty sure someone wouldn't make it past the insertion." "Thanks for the confidence," Maya said with a slight smile. "I'm serious, Captain. Tomorrow night, you're going to do something that defies all logic and survival instincts. You're going to step off a platform into darkness and fall 300 feet without a parachute. And you're doing it alone. I want to understand why. Is it really just about Carlos?" Maya was quiet for a moment, watching steam rise from her coffee. "It's about more than Carlos, though he's a big part of it. It's about proving I belong, about showing that determination and skill matter more than size or gender. But mostly it's about the mission itself. Reyes has destroyed families, killed innocent people, poisoned communities. He needs to be stopped. And if I'm the only operator willing to take this risk to make that happen, then that's what I'll do." Chen nodded slowly. "You know what Hawthorne said to me yesterday? He said you remind him of himself when he was younger, too brave for your own good, willing to die for what you believe in. He didn't mean it as a compliment. He thinks it's reckless. But I think that's exactly the kind of person we need on missions like this." "Did Hawthorne really say that?" "He did. He also said that if you somehow pull this off, he'll never doubt a female operator again. You're carrying a lot on your shoulders, Captain, more than just the mission." Maya met Chen's eyes. "I know, but I can handle it." "I believe you can. Just promise me one thing." "What's that?" "When you're standing on that cliff edge about to jump into the void, remember that you've got people back here who want you to make it. This isn't a suicide mission. It's a survival mission. You survive first, complete the objective second. Got it?" "Got it," Maya agreed. "Thanks, Chen, for believing in me." "Thank you for that submission hold yesterday," Chen said with a grin. "My ego needed taking down a notch." They finished their coffee and headed back to base as dawn began to break over the California coast. The deployment began that afternoon. The team flew to Colombia on a military transport, arriving at a forward operating base just after sunset. The base was small, just a handful of buildings surrounded by jungle, but it was secure and positioned perfectly for launching operations into cartel territory. Commander Hawthorne gathered the team in an equipment building. Besides Maya and Chen, there were 4 other operators: Lieutenant Bradley, who still seemed skeptical of Maya's involvement; Sergeant Rodriguez, a quiet, intense man who specialized in communications; Corporal Hayes, the youngest member at 26, responsible for medical support; and Warrant Officer Thompson, a veteran sniper who would provide overwatch during the extraction phase. "Final equipment check," Hawthorne ordered. We insert at 2200 hours. That gives us 6 hours of darkness to complete the operation before dawn increases the risk factor. Maya went through her gear methodically. Everything had to be secured perfectly. If anything came loose during the fall, it could shift her body position or cause injury on impact. She wore a compression wetsuit under her tactical uniform to reduce drag and provide some protection. Her weapons were strapped down tight: a compact submachine gun, a pistol, and a tactical knife. The waterproof pack contained her climbing gear, communications equipment, and mission supplies. "How you feeling?" Rodriguez asked as he helped Maya double-check her equipment straps. "Ready," Maya said simply. "That's it, just ready. Most people would be terrified." "Oh, I'm terrified," Maya admitted. "But I'm ready too. Both things can be true." Rodriguez nodded with approval. "Good answer, Captain. Fear keeps you sharp, just don't let it control you." At 2100 hours, the team loaded into 2 Black Hawk helicopters. Maya rode in the lead bird with Hawthorne, Chen, and Bradley. The flight to the drop zone took 40 minutes, the helicopters flying low and dark over the jungle canopy. Through her headset, Maya could hear the pilots coordinating with the mission controllers back at base. The weather was clear, good for visibility, but also for enemy radar. Everything had to be perfectly timed. As they approached the gorge, Maya's heart rate increased. This was it, the moment she'd been preparing for, the moment that would either validate everything she'd worked toward or end her life in an instant. The helicopter pilot's voice crackled over the radio. 2 minutes to drop zone, stand by. Hawthorne turned to Maya. In the dim red light of the helicopter's interior, his face was hard to read. "Last chance to back out, Captain. No one would blame you." "I'm not backing out, sir." "Then I'll say this, I hope I'm wrong about that drop. I hope you prove me wrong about everything. Good luck, Maya." It was the first time he'd used her first name. "Thank you, sir." The helicopter banked sharply, following the contours of the gorge. Through the open door, Maya could see the river far below, a dark ribbon cutting through darker jungle. The gorge walls rose up on either side, sheer rock faces barely visible in the moonlight. 1 minute, the pilot announced. Chen helped Maya stand and move to the door. The wind whipped at her face, and the roar of the rotors made it hard to think. Below, 300 feet down, the river waited. In the darkness, it looked like a void, empty, infinite, deadly. 30 seconds, target zone coming up. Maya positioned herself at the edge of the door, her feet on the skid. The helicopter slowed, hovering over a specific point in the gorge that Chen had identified from the satellite imagery. This was where the river was deepest, where the current was strong enough to have carved out a natural pool. At least that's what the intelligence suggested. Maya wouldn't know for sure until she hit the water. 10 seconds. Maya took a deep breath. She thought of Carlos, of all the people Reyes had hurt, of every person who'd ever told her she couldn't do this. 5 seconds. She thought of her own determination, her years of training, her refusal to accept limitations. 3, 2, 1, go, go, go. Maya jumped. For a moment, she hung in space, suspended between the helicopter above and the river below. Then gravity took over and she began to fall. The wind screamed past her. The gorge walls blurred into dark streaks. Maya kept her body straight, her feet pointed down, her arms locked to her sides. She counted in her head, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, trying to track the seconds even as the world rushed past at impossible speed. 3 seconds. 4 seconds. The river came up faster than she'd imagined. In the last instant before impact, Maya tucked her chin and tightened every muscle in her body. She hit the water like a missile. The impact was beyond anything she could have prepared for. It felt like she'd been hit by a truck. The force slammed through her legs, her spine, her entire body. The compression wetsuit helped, but not enough. Water forced its way up her nose, into her ears. The cold shocked her system. She plunged deep, so deep that darkness surrounded her completely. Equipment pulled at her, trying to drag her down further. Maya fought panic, fought the urge to thrash and struggle. She let her momentum carry her down, 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 until finally she began to slow. Then she kicked hard. Her lungs burned, she couldn't see anything. She didn't even know which direction was up. But she kicked again, pulling with her arms, fighting toward what she hoped was the surface. Her head broke through and she gasped, sucking in air. Pain radiated through her entire body. Her legs felt like they'd been shattered, but she was alive. Maya was alive. She forced herself to swim to move toward the darker mass that must be the shore. The current pulled at her, but she fought it, using techniques she'd trained for years. Every stroke hurt. Every breath was agony, but she kept going. Her hand touched rock, the gorge wall. Maya grabbed hold, pulling herself toward a small outcropping where the water was calmer. She crawled onto the rocks and collapsed, coughing up water, her body shaking. For a long moment, she just lay there in the darkness, unable to believe she was still alive. Then she heard a voice in her earpiece, waterproof and still functioning. "Captain Reeves, this is Overwatch. Do you copy?" Maya pressed the transmit button with shaking fingers. "This is Reeves. I'm alive. I made it." "Confirm you survived the insertion." It was Hawthorne's voice, and he sounded genuinely shocked. "Confirmed, sir. Beginning phase 2. There was a long pause. Then, "Outstanding, Captain. Absolutely outstanding. Proceed to objective when ready." Maya sat up slowly, checking her equipment. Amazingly, most of it had survived the fall. Her weapons were intact, her climbing gear was functional. Her legs hurt terribly, she'd definitely have severe bruising, maybe hairline fractures, but nothing seemed broken. She looked up at the gorge wall towering above her. 100 feet of sheer rock between her and the mission objective. Maya attached her climbing gear and began to ascend. Part 4. The climb took an hour. Every movement sent pain through Maya's battered body, but she forced herself upward foot by foot, handhold by handhold. The rock was wet from spray off the river, making it slippery and treacherous. Twice she nearly fell, catching herself at the last second. When she finally pulled herself over the top edge of the gorge, Maya lay on the jungle floor for several minutes, breathing hard and letting her muscles recover. Through the canopy above, she could see stars, bright and clear in the Colombian night. "Reeves to Overwatch," she whispered into her radio. "I'm up, moving toward objective." "Copy that," came Rodriguez's voice. He was handling communications from the helicopter, which had repositioned to a safe distance. "You're approximately 2 miles from the compound. Terrain is dense jungle. We're tracking your position via GPS. Be advised, we've detected increased radio chatter from the compound. They may have heard the helicopter insertion." "Understood," going silent. Maya pulled out a small tablet from her waterproof pack and checked the digital map. The route to the compound followed a small stream bed, which would give her cover and easier movement through the jungle. She oriented herself and began moving. The jungle at night was a different world. Sounds echoed strangely, animal calls, insects, the rustle of leaves. Maya moved carefully, using night vision goggles to navigate. Every 20 minutes she stopped to listen, to make sure she wasn't being followed or walking into a patrol. After 90 minutes of careful movement, she reached the ridge overlooking the compound. From this position, hidden in the thick foliage, she could see the entire layout. The compound was larger than the satellite images had suggested. 3 main buildings arranged in a U-shape around a central courtyard. Generator-powered lights illuminated the area, and she could see guards, at least 8 of them visible from her position, probably more inside. Gabriel Reyes' vehicle was parked near the main building, a black SUV with reinforced plating. That confirmed he was here. Maya set up a small observation post, using her tablet to capture video footage of the compound and mark guard positions. She had to establish the patrol patterns before attempting infiltration. She watched for an hour, noting everything. The guards changed shifts every 2 hours. There was a blind spot on the eastern side where the jungle grew close to the compound fence. The main building had lights on in 3 second-floor windows, probably living quarters. At 0200 hours, Maya made her move. She crept down the ridge to the eastern fence line. The fence was chain-link topped with razor wire, standard security but not sophisticated. Maya used wire cutters from her pack to create a small opening at ground level, just large enough to squeeze through. She was inside. Maya moved between buildings, staying in shadows, avoiding the light pools from the compound lamps. She reached the main building and found a service entrance on the side, unlocked, probably used by guards for smoke breaks. Inside, the building was quiet. Concrete floors, basic furniture, the smell of cigarettes and gun oil. Maya moved through the ground floor quickly, clearing rooms, storage, kitchen, common area with a television playing softly, no sign of Reyes yet. She found stairs leading to the second floor. This was the dangerous part. If Reyes had personal guards, they'd be up there. Maya ascended slowly, her weapon ready. At the top of the stairs was a hallway with 4 doors. Light showed under 3 of them. She moved to the first door and listened. Snoring. A guard sleeping, she moved past. The second door revealed voices, 2 men talking in Spanish. Maya recognized one voice from intelligence recordings, Gabriel Reyes. She pressed against the wall next to the door and listened. Reyes was arguing with someone about a shipment that had been intercepted. He sounded angry, agitated. The other man, probably his second-in-command, was trying to calm him down. Maya checked her watch. She had 3 hours until dawn. The extraction team would be in position at 0500 hours, ready to raid the compound. Her job was to confirm Reyes' location and tag him with a tracking device so they'd know exactly which room to hit. But as she listened to Reyes' voice, the same voice that had ordered Carlos's death, Maya felt anger rise in her chest. This man had destroyed so many lives. He'd killed a good person and his family without mercy. She could end this right now. Maya's hand moved to her pistol. She could kick in that door, neutralize the second man, and put 2 rounds in Reyes before anyone else reacted. It would be justice. It would be revenge. But it wouldn't be the mission. Maya forced herself to breathe slowly. She was a professional. She followed orders. Personal feelings couldn't override the mission objective. They needed Reyes alive for interrogation to dismantle his entire network, not just eliminate one man. She pulled out a small electronic device, the tracker, and prepared to attach it to Reyes' door so the extraction team would know exactly where he was. But before she could place it, she heard footsteps behind her. Maya spun around. A guard stood at the end of the hallway, his eyes widening in shock at seeing an intruder. For a split second, neither moved. Then the guard opened his mouth to shout an alarm. Maya moved first. She crossed the distance in 3 quick steps, her hand clamping over the guard's mouth before he could make a sound. They struggled silently, the guard reaching for his weapon. Maya drove her knee into his stomach, then swept his legs, taking him down to the floor. But the scuffle made noise, too much noise. The door to Reyes' room opened. A large man stepped out, the second-in-command already drawing his pistol. Maya had no choice. She released the guard and drew her own weapon, firing 2 suppressed shots that took down the second-in-command before he could fire. The man collapsed with a thud. Inside the room, she heard Reyes shouting. The entire compound would be alert in seconds. "Overwatch, this is Reeves," Maya said urgently into her radio. "I'm compromised. Target is confirmed, but compound is going hot. Request immediate extraction." "Negative, Reeves," Hawthorne's voice came back. "Extraction team is 20 minutes out. You need to secure the target and hold position." "Copy that, engaging now." Maya kicked open the door to Reyes' room. Gabriel Reyes stood by a window, a pistol in his hand. He was in his 50s with gray hair and cold eyes. When he saw Maya, his expression shifted from alarm to something else, calculation. "Drop the weapon," Maya ordered in Spanish. Reyes didn't drop it. Instead, he smiled slightly. "You're American military, special operations. Very impressive that you made it this far." "Drop the weapon." "You know who I am, yes. You know what I've done, who I've hurt. You probably have your own reasons for being here, personal reasons." Maya's finger tightened on the trigger. "You don't know anything about me. I know you came here alone. I know you're willing to die to capture me. That kind of commitment is always personal." Reyes tilted his head, still holding his pistol but not raising it. "You can kill me right now. You probably want to, but then you'll never make it out of this compound alive. My men will cut you down before you reach the fence." Outside, Maya could hear shouts, running footsteps. Reyes was right. The compound was fully alert now. "Or," Reyes continued, "you can let me walk out of here. I disappear, you tell your commanders I escaped during the raid, and you go home alive. Everyone wins." "Everyone except the people you'll keep hurting," Maya said. "I'm one man, you remove me, another takes my place. That's how this works, you know that." Maya did know that, but she also knew that justice mattered, that the mission mattered, that she hadn't survived a 300-foot drop and climbed a gorge wall just to let this man walk away. "Last chance," Maya said. "Drop the weapon and surrender." Reyes' smile faded. Then I suppose we both make our choice. He started to raise his pistol. Maya fired first. The shot hit Reyes in the shoulder, spinning him around and dropping him to the floor. His pistol clattered away. Maya moved forward quickly, kicking the weapon aside and securing Reyes with zip-tie restraints even as he cursed in pain. Overwatch, target is secured. I have Reyes, but I'm trapped in the main building with hostiles converging on my position. Hold tight, Captain, Hawthorne responded. We're coming in hot, extraction in 15 minutes. Can you hold that long? Maya looked around the room. One door, one window facing the courtyard where guards were gathering. 15 minutes might as well be 15 hours. I'll hold, sir, just get here fast. Maya dragged the injured Reyes away from the window and barricaded the door with a heavy dresser. Then she took up position where she could watch both the door and the window. In the courtyard below, she counted at least 12 armed men organizing to storm the building. This was going to be close. The first attack came within 2 minutes. Guards tried to force the door, slamming against it repeatedly. The dresser held, but Maya knew it wouldn't last long. She fired several shots through the door, driving the guards back momentarily. You're going to die here, Reyes said from his position on the floor, his face pale from pain and blood loss. My men will kill you. Then I'll die completing my mission, Maya replied, reloading her weapon. Better than the way you'll die in a prison cell, forgot. Reyes laughed bitterly. You Americans, so righteous, so convinced you're the heroes. Heroes? Maya looked at him directly. I'm not a hero, I'm just someone who knew one of your victims, Carlos Mendoza. He was a good man, you killed him and his entire family. Recognition flickered across Reyes's face. The translator, that was 3 years ago. You've been hunting me for 3 years over one informant. He wasn't just an informant, he was a human being, they all were. Sentimental fool, Reyes muttered. The window exploded inward as someone fired from the courtyard. Maya dropped below the window line, glass raining down around her. She returned fire, forcing the shooters to take cover. Through her earpiece, she heard Hawthorne. Extraction team is inbound, 30 seconds, get ready to move. Maya could hear the helicopters now, approaching fast. The compound guards heard them too. Some started shooting at the sky while others continued trying to break through the door. This is it, Reyes, Maya said, grabbing him by his good arm. Time to leave. She dragged him to the window. Below, the Black Hawks were descending into the courtyard, their door gunners laying down suppressing fire. Guards scattered for cover. A rope dropped from the lead helicopter. Maya secured it to Reyes, then clicked her own harness onto the line. Overwatch, we're hooked on. Extract. The helicopter began to rise, pulling Maya and Reyes up and out through the window. Bullets sparked off the building around them. Maya twisted in her harness, firing her weapon one-handed to provide covering fire as they ascended. Hands reached down from the helicopter, pulling them inside. Maya collapsed on the deck as the bird banked hard and accelerated away from the compound. Target secured, Chen shouted over the rotor noise. Hot damn, Captain, you actually did it. Commander Hawthorne knelt beside Maya, his expression a mix of relief and disbelief. That was the craziest extraction I've ever been part of, and I've been doing this for 30 years. Are you hurt? Nothing serious, Maya said, though her whole body ached from the drop, the climb, and the firefight. Mission accomplished, sir. Hawthorne looked at Reyes, secured and guarded by Corporal Hayes. Then back at Maya. Captain Reeves, when we debrief this operation, I'm recommending you for a commendation. What you did tonight, the drop, the infiltration, holding off a dozen hostiles, I've never seen anything like it. Just doing my job, sir. No, Hawthorne said firmly. That was way beyond your job, that was exceptional. As the helicopter carried them away from the jungle and back towards safety, Maya finally allowed herself to relax. She'd done it. Against all odds, against everyone's expectations, she'd completed an impossible mission. And she'd survived. Part 5. 2 weeks later, Maya stood in a conference room at Naval Special Warfare Command. The debriefing had taken days, every detail of the operation analyzed, every decision scrutinized. Gabriel Reyes was in federal custody, providing information that was already leading to arrests throughout his organization. The mission was being called the most successful cartel interdiction operation in years. But Maya wasn't thinking about accolades as she waited in the conference room. She was thinking about what came next. She'd proven herself in the most dramatic way possible, but one mission didn't change the entire military culture. There would be more skeptics, more challenges, more fights to prove she belonged. The door opened. Commander Hawthorne entered, followed by Lieutenant Chen and several senior officers Maya didn't recognize. They wore dress uniforms with enough medals and ribbons to indicate very high rank. "Captain Reeves," Hawthorne said formally. "I'd like to introduce Vice Admiral Patricia Morrison, Deputy Commander of Naval Special Warfare Command." Maya came to attention and saluted. The Vice Admiral returned the salute and gestured for everyone to sit. "At ease, Captain," Morrison said. She was a stern-looking woman in her late 50s with sharp eyes that seemed to evaluate everything. "I've read the operational reports from Columbia. Quite remarkable. You survived a 300-foot drop without a parachute, climbed a gorge wall, infiltrated a hostile compound alone, secured a high-value target, and held off a dozen armed hostiles until extraction. Is that accurate?" "Yes, ma'am, that's accurate." Morrison leaned forward. "Commander Hawthorne has told me something interesting. He said that before this mission, he had serious doubts about your capabilities. He believed sending you on this operation was essentially a death sentence. Would you say that assessment was fair?" Maya glanced at Hawthorne, who nodded slightly. "Yes, ma'am. Commander Hawthorne made his concerns very clear." "And yet you went anyway." "The mission required someone with knowledge of the terrain and willingness to take the risk. I was that someone." "You were also told repeatedly that no one survives that drop." "I didn't believe no one had to include me, ma'am." Morrison almost smiled. "Commander Hawthorne also tells me that you submitted Lieutenant Chen in hand-to-hand combat during your evaluation. Chen is one of our best operators. How did you manage that?" "Technique over strength, ma'am. Determination over size. I didn't try to fight his fight. I fought my own fight." This time Morrison did smile. "That's an excellent philosophy for life, not just combat. Captain Reeves, the reason I'm here is to discuss your future. Your performance in Colombia has raised some questions about how we utilize female operators in special operations. For too long, capable women have been kept out of direct action roles due to outdated assumptions and institutional bias. You've proven those assumptions wrong in the most dramatic way possible." Maya felt her heart rate increase. This sounded like the beginning of something significant. Morrison continued, "We're establishing a new training program, an advanced special operations course specifically designed to identify and develop female operators for direct action roles. We want you to help design the program and serve as one of its first instructors." "Ma'am, I'm honored, but—" "Let me finish, Captain. This isn't just about training. We're also forming a specialized unit, a team that will handle high-risk operations requiring operators with specific skills. Skills like yours. The ability to survive in extreme conditions, to adapt when everything goes wrong, to complete missions that seem impossible. We want you to be part of that unit. If you accept, you'll report directly to me and take on assignments across the globe." Maya looked at Hawthorne, who gave her an encouraging nod, then at Chen, who grinned. "This is everything you've been working toward," Morrison said. "A chance to not just prove yourself on one mission, but to change the entire structure of how we utilize female operators. To open doors for the women coming after you. But I'll be honest, it will also be dangerous. The missions we have in mind aren't any easier than what you just survived in Colombia." "Ma'am," Maya said carefully, "I appreciate this opportunity more than you know. But I have to ask, is this happening because I completed the mission, or because it's politically convenient right now to promote a female operator?" Morrison's expression hardened slightly. "That's a fair question. The honest answer is both. Yes, your success gives us political cover to push forward initiatives that should have happened years ago. But make no mistake, Captain, I wouldn't offer you this position if I didn't believe you'd earned it on merit. Politics may have opened the door, but you walked through it on your own feet. Now the question is, do you want to help more women walk through after you?" Maya thought about all the times she'd been underestimated. All the doubters, the skeptics, the people who'd told her she'd never make it. She thought about Carlos and how he'd believed in her when they'd hiked through Colombian mountains together. She thought about every woman in the military who'd faced the same barriers she had. "Yes, ma'am," Maya said firmly. "I want that very much." "Outstanding. Consider yourself assigned to Special Operations Development Group, effective immediately." Your first task is to work with Commander Hawthorne and Lieutenant Chen to design evaluation protocols for the new training program. We start recruiting in 3 months. Morrison stood and everyone else rose with her. She extended her hand to Maya. Welcome to the cutting edge of naval special warfare, Captain Reeves. Don't make me regret this. I won't, ma'am. After the senior officers left, Hawthorne approached Maya with an expression that was almost sheepish. Captain, I owe you an apology. I was wrong about you. Wrong about what you could do, wrong about the drop, wrong about almost everything. And I let my assumptions about female operators cloud my judgment. That was unprofessional. Sir, you had legitimate concerns based on your experience, and you gave me a chance to prove myself when you could have just refused. That took courage, too. Still, Hawthorne said, I want you to know that you've changed my mind about a lot of things. You're one of the finest operators I've ever worked with, regardless of gender. And I'm proud to have you under my command, or rather, I was. Looks like the Admiral just poached you. Chen stepped forward. Hey, Captain, remember that rematch I wanted? I remembered. How about we make it interesting? If I win, you buy beer for the whole team. If you win, I'll help you train the first class of recruits for the new program. Deal. Maya shook his hand. Deal, but fair warning, I've been working on my submission techniques. I'd expect nothing less. That evening, Maya returned to her apartment and pulled out the photograph of Carlos. She set it on her desk and looked at it for a long time. I did it, she said quietly. I got him, and not just him, his whole organization is falling apart. The intelligence Reyes is providing has already led to 30 arrests. They'll save lives, Carlos, they already have. She paused, emotions welling up. I wish you could see this. Wish you could know that your death meant something, that it led to something bigger. I'm going to help train other women to do what I did, to show them they can be strong enough, brave enough, good enough. I'm going to make sure no one else gets told they can't do something just because of who they are. Maya carefully placed the photograph in a frame and set it on her bookshelf, next to her commendations and service medals. Then she opened her laptop and began drafting the training protocols for the new Special Operations program. She had work to do. 3 months later, the first class of female Special Operations candidates reported for training. There were 12 of them, ranging from age 24 to 36, from various backgrounds and military specialties. They gathered in the same briefing room where Maya had once stood while Commander Hawthorne doubted her capabilities. Now Maya stood at the front of the room, with Hawthorne and Chen beside her as co-instructors. Welcome, Maya began, looking at each candidate in turn. You're here because you've demonstrated exceptional skills and determination in your military careers. But I'm not going to lie to you, this program will push you harder than anything you've experienced. Some of you won't make it through. That's not a criticism. This training is designed to identify people with very specific capabilities. She pulled up images on the screen behind her. Satellite photos of the Colombian jungle, the gorge, the river. 3 months ago, I jumped 300 feet without a parachute into this river. I survived. I completed my mission. And now I'm here to teach you that impossible is just another word for difficult. But here's what I need you to understand. You're not here to prove you're as good as male operators. You're here to prove you're excellent operators, period. No qualifiers, no asterisks, just excellence. One of the candidates raised her hand, a lieutenant named Sarah Martinez. Ma'am, I heard that people told you no one survives that drop. Why did you do it anyway? Maya smiled. Because someone had to, because the mission mattered, and because I'd spent my entire career being told what I couldn't do. At some point, you get tired of hearing no and decide to show everyone what yes looks like. That's what this program is about, turning no one can into I can. Commander Hawthorne stepped forward. Let me add something to that. When I first met Captain Reeves, I didn't believe she could complete her mission. I was convinced she'd die trying. I was wrong. She not only completed the mission, but did it better than I could have imagined. She taught me that my assumptions, based on decades of experience, were flawed. Don't let anyone's assumptions limit your potential. Not mine, not your commanding officers, not even your own. Lieutenant Chen spoke last. Also, fair warning, Captain Reeves has a mean submission hold. I found that out the hard way. The candidates laughed, and the tension in the room eased slightly. All right, Maya continued. Let's begin. First exercise, you're going to tell me about an impossible situation you've faced and overcome. Not physically impossible, life impossible. Times when the world told you no and you found a way to yes anyway, because that's the foundation of everything we're going to do here. mental toughness, unbreakable determination, the refusal to accept limitations. Who wants to start? Sarah Martinez raised her hand again. I'll go, ma'am. When I was 20, I was in a car accident that nearly paralyzed me. Doctors said I'd never walk normally again, definitely never run. I spent 2 years in physical therapy and rehab. Now I run 5 miles every morning and I'm here in this room. I learned that medical impossibilities are really just probabilities in disguise. Outstanding, Maya said. That's exactly the mindset we need. Who's next? One by one, the candidates shared their stories. Stories of overcoming poverty, abuse, discrimination, injury, loss. Each woman in the room had already proven herself tougher than circumstances that should have broken her. As Maya listened, she felt something she hadn't expected. Hope. Hope that the military was truly changing, that the doors she'd kicked open would stay open. Hope that these women would go on to do extraordinary things, to complete missions that others thought impossible. Later that night, after the first day of training concluded, Maya stood on the beach near the base and watched the sun set over the Pacific. Lieutenant Chen joined her, carrying 2 bottles of water. How'd it feel, he asked, first day as an instructor? Terrifying and amazing, Maya admitted. Those women are incredible, the stories they shared today, the things they've overcome. I was blown away. They look up to you, you know. You're proof that the system can change, that determination matters more than genetics or politics. Maya was quiet for a moment. I keep thinking about something Admiral Morrison said, about how my success gives political cover for changes that should have happened anyway. Part of me wonders if I'm being used. Maybe you are, Chen said. But does that make it less meaningful? You survived that drop. You completed that mission. Those are facts, not politics. Everything that comes after, the new programs, the opportunities for other women, those are consequences of what you did. Own that, Captain. You earned it. Thanks, Chen. Also, I want you to know something. Remember when I said you reminded Hawthorne of himself when he was younger? Well, you remind me of why I joined the military in the first place. To be part of something bigger than myself. To work with people who push beyond limits. You've made this team better just by being part of it. So thanks for that. Maya felt tears sting her eyes but blinked them back. That might be the nicest thing anyone said to me. Don't let it go to your head. I still plan to beat you in our rematch. Keep dreaming, Lieutenant. They watched the sun disappear below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Somewhere in that vast ocean on the other side of the world, there were missions waiting to be completed, challenges waiting to be overcome, impossible situations waiting to be solved. And now there were more people ready to handle them. Maya thought one more time about that moment in the helicopter, standing at the door above a 300-foot drop into darkness. The terror, the determination, the leap into the unknown. No one survives that drop, Hawthorne had said. But Maya Reeves wasn't no one. She was a soldier, an operator, an instructor, and a pioneer. She was proof that limits existed to be exceeded, that impossible was just another challenge, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you could do was jump into the darkness and trust yourself to survive the fall. And now she was helping build a generation of women who would do the same.